homosexual was a terrible barbarism which was half Greek and half Latin. It signaled a new stage in human evolution. He urged for a system of new thought where class barriers and gender barriers were broken down for a truly democratic, pacifist society. He seems to have been very influenced by Hinduism, and it's in a boomerang effect. It's thought that his writings may have influenced Gandhi in his pacifist, ascetic form of activism. And yeah, don't forget the women's rights movement too. Susan B. Anthony is often seen as the mother of the women's rights movement in America, with demands for the right to vote, aligning herself with the anti-slavery movement, even going so far as to wear trousers at rallies. She's the skinny one, for those who don't know, the one who's got less puffy hair. Her activist partner was Elizabeth Cady Stanton, although it's not so clear, and although they had this lifelong activist partnership, there's not that much evidence that they were actually lesbian lovers. There's more evidence that Susan B. Anthony liked to, wrote certain letters to the younger members of her feminist groups. And but I can't show them together because, this was a time when a lot of women were able to live together without men in twos, and with their sexual status undisclosed. These were known as Boston marriages because of their commonness in Boston, the capital of Massachusetts, which is now the only state in the US where gay marriage is legal. Okay, I'm going to wing it a bit from here because I didn't have time to write out my notes so laboriously. Yes, but the 1890s were popularly known as the naughty 90s, and that really was a time when gay culture was really coming into itself. But one of the events that really marred it was, and gave its strength, was the trial of Oscar Wilde. I mean, most of us here know that Oscar Wilde's plays, poems, and fairy tales. And his amazing wit. He, however, although he actually was bisexual rather than gay, he really liked his women as well, and he had a strong relationship with his wife. He was also involved in a relationship with a young nobleman who was also a poet called Lord Alfred Douglas, whom he liked to call Bosie, and they're remembered as one of the great gay male couples today. What happened was that, Bosie's father found out that they were having a relationship. Bosie's father objected. Bosie's father, who was not well liked, threatened to sue Oscar Wilde, and Oscar Wilde. He threatened Oscar Wilde. That's what had happened. And Oscar Wilde decided to sue him for threatening him. And although everyone told him that you're gonna lose at this, he did it anyway. And eventually he was countersued and found guilty under the British statutes for sodomy and sentenced to hard labor in Reading Gaol. And it's also not that much. It's also thought that Oscar Wilde was the person who first called gay love the love that dare not speak its name. It's rather ironic that it turns out that it was Bosie who came up with that name. He wasn't a very good poet, but he made some contribution to the language. Another less popular thing about Oscar Wilde and Bosie most people don't know is that they tended to have dirty holidays, not in Bangkok as Singapore gay men might, but in Algeria. I mean, that was colonized by the French back then, and Arab society just wasn't as hardline about homosexuality as Christian society was back then. So they actually introduced the French writer André Gide to his first sexual experience with a 15-year-old flautist called Ahmed, I think. But yeah, and there was really this strange like colonialist dynamic where like well, people from Europe would go off to their colonies to enjoy themselves, and which, yeah, Lawrence of Arabia, who was like you know, thought of as this like a great like British hero who like fought against the Persians and Turks, and eventually also fought for Arab independence, is also thought to have been gay for his extremely close relationship with a guy, with a young man called Salim Ahmed, I think. He wrote a poem to an unnamed S.A. called, which goes, "I loved you, so I drew these tides of men into my hands and wrote my will across the sky and stars to gain you freedom, the seven-pillared worthy house, that your eyes might be shining for me when I came." He was also known for, when asked why he wanted to fight for Arab independence, he said, "I liked a particular Arab and thought that freedom for the race would be an acceptable present." Oh, yes, but yeah, since Lawrence was in the 20th century, by the way, and yes, and okay, when trying to figure out what I want to say about the 20th century, I'd like to say that it was in the first part that we really started having a culture of a gay culture in the capital cities, and that had been forming up to then. But there really were, I mean, there were a lot of famous gay people who were really concentrating in the capital cities of the West. Like in London, you had the Bloomsbury Group, which was this group of practical jokers who had sexual libertines, whose members included Virginia Woolf, who was widely known as bisexual. Her big girlfriend Rita Sackville West was actually married to a gay man, which was pretty good for him, for both of them. And J.M. Keynes, who was like famous as an economist, and who was also bisexual. Oh yes, Paris, however, was an incredibly big center. There was and continued to be for a long time. Famous gay people included Marcel Proust, who wrote about in his big book, Remembrance of, what's his major novel called? Yeah, well, he was also describing lesbian friends as well as his own. He wasn't as outcoming about his sexual experience as he was about his lesbian friends. Wonder why. There was also Josephine Baker, who was she was American. She was half black and half Native American, interestingly enough, and discovering that she didn't have that much. That she didn't have that many opportunities if she stayed in America. She went to Paris and was celebrated as the Black Venus for her dancing. And she became a Parisian citizen. She was a spy for the resistance during World War II, and she was married 5 times. It's also suspected that she had a relationship with the openly bisexual painter Frida Kahlo from Mexico. Yeah, it may have been a one-off kind of thing for Josephine, but and there's even a scene about it in the movie. I mean, it's silent, but like when Frida goes to Paris, yeah, she's getting herself some chocolate. Okay. Okay. Oh yes. But really interestingly for lesbian culture, it was this time when there were a lot of literary salons which didn't just include women, of course. Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas were they're perhaps the world's most famous lesbian couple. And they were both like rich Jews from America who settled in Paris and well supported the arts and got a lot of young lesbian writers and aesthetes at and reporters at their gatherings to talk about culture. Gertrude Stein was actually the person who gave Picasso his big break. She was really controlling the arts and the way modern arts progressed. It's also, but she wasn't the only saloners in Paris back then. There was also Natalie Varney and Romaine Brooks, who used to do weird things like dressing up as an Amazon and riding horses down the streets of Paris, even though cars had been invented.